Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the way in which no-deal Brexit is going to make our borders much less secure, as highlighted by policing forces in the UK who insist that they have been clear with the government from the start. We will be less safe if current security arrangements are not continued after Brexit. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So when it comes to a no-deal Brexit, for those supporting Brexit, it's all about not following EU rules, even though most of them were rules that we came up with, or at least strongly encouraged, because reasons. But even for those opposed to Brexit, or at the very least opposed to the hard Brexit that is coming, it's mostly about the trade. And the lack of trade agreements with the EU will certainly be the most visible source of chaos for most people, as well as, income insecurity. But there's an awful lot going under the bonnet with the EU. There's a lot of cooperation in areas that most of us just don't notice because it's all working seamlessly to our benefit. We take it for granted. But it's going to cost us badly if that cooperation ceases, but in a way that most people will be blissfully unaware of. So national security isn't about having lots of people at the borders saying, you can't come in, you seem to be foreign, you can't come in here. It's what Nigel Farage imagines it to be, but in actual fact it relies upon shared intelligence. Now, the National Police Chiefs Council has been warning that without a security agreement with the EU, our police will lose access to all sorts of things, EU databases, for example, that they use millions of times a year, they say, massively impacting the effectiveness of their work. So they call it having a major operational impact. In other words, we won't be able to do our jobs very well. Michael Gove, who is the government's Mr. Brexit because he's handling everything regarding our post-Brexit arrangements with the EU, tried to tell Parliament we'll actually be able to boost our security outside the EU. He even tried to say that cooperation would be much greater outside of the EU than it ever could possibly be inside it. I mean, just think about that. What he's literally said is, we can cooperate with the EU much better from outside than we could inside. What? Really? Okay. But of course the policing organisations have said that's a load of rubbish. They've worked out alternatives to accessing the EU tools. It's like basically, okay, if we can't get access to these EU tools, this is what we have to work with. And they've said that they're all slower and less efficient. They've said that the alternatives are less automated and more unwieldy to use. So the implication here, unwieldy to use means takes a lot longer, more difficult to use. And then less automated means you've got people, human beings involved in the process more often. And we know what happens when you introduce a human being into a system. You get the potential for error, which means, millions of times a year, a lot of errors. Now, ironically, when defending the cuts to the aid budget this week, it was in PMQs, wasn't it? Boris Johnson tried to say that he was prioritising the defence of the realm. We're going to put it instead into our defence budget. So I'm prioritising the defence of the realm. Now, although the aid budget is pushed as humanitarian, in reality, the reason we do it is because it has a defence purpose as well. But the fact of the matter is that a government that willingly deprives its police services of essential tools is deliberately putting the security of the nation at much greater risk, therefore has absolutely no right to claim that national security features in their thinking at all. Now, and because this is senseless as well, by the way, so you think, so who are they doing it for? Why are they doing this? Because even the populists like Nigel Farage, who make daily calls for unicorns, never demanded, as far as I'm aware, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, never actually demanded that we deprive ourselves of intelligence, on people passing into our country. I don't think he ever said, yeah, we're going to have people coming to the country. We don't want to know if they've got criminal records, we're not bothered. I don't remember that conversation. And how on earth is it protecting the country if you've got someone travelling into the UK and the border forces do not know the difference between an axe murderer and someone who just wants to sell shoes? I mean, you can understand the political situation that many Conservative MPs find themselves in, when it comes to a wider Brexit deal. Because they promised all the benefits of membership with none of the obligations. Obviously, this was impossible to deliver. Now, I don't have any sympathy for their plight. They deliberately lied and promised something that was never going to be delivered. That was a conscious choice on their behalf. But you can understand their paralysis in heralding in the realities of Brexit, because the downsides to getting a trade deal with the EU is we'll have to follow some EU rules. you know, some of them, that goes against what they promised. But the downsides of not getting a trade deal with the EU is that, well, we knacker quite a lot of our trade. Well, that also goes against what they promised. But what promises were there regarding security cooperation? You know, what would it mean that Brexiteers or the Brexit supporters are against? What would we have to do that they said they're against? Because if the UK had arranged to maintain all security arrangements with the EU, who would have complained? Nobody. And the Brexit supporters will no doubt try and point to Interpol. Oh, we've got an international policing system that exists to do these jobs without specific agreements. You know, but the thing is, Interpol is the policing equivalent of the World Trade Organization. You know, it's what you use when you don't have anything else because it's crap. You know, it's basically designed to be less crap than nothing at all. So just as with the WTO, you know, why would tailored agreements even exist in the world if Interpol was actually fine? It wouldn't. You wouldn't go to the bother. You develop bespoke arrangements specifically to be better than the international safety net. And as a direct result of our failure to maintain security access with the EU, that means more crimes are going to go undetected. Police will be less likely to prevent crimes from occurring in the first place. They'll be less likely to catch criminals, and even when they do, it will take longer and drain more resources. And in case the government hadn't noticed, they've already drained our police of tens of thousands of staff and closed down hundreds of stations. And never mind their promises to rehire more. Even when you look at the number they've promised to rehire, that still doesn't even come close to replacing all the jobs they've cut since the last Labour government. But they're also years from making good on that promise, because even if they were to hire them all tomorrow, which they're not, you cannot fast track the years of experience that were lost with those cuts. And now the government want to deprive our police of the tools that at least allow them to work more efficiently when they lack the manpower to be able to cope with anything less. And all because of the Brexit mindset. And I say mindset in this case, not ideology. Because like I said, security cooperation was never part of any Brexit ideology. No Brexit ideology called for us to be less safe or to have a lower level of security cooperation. It's the mindset. Boris Johnson has adopted this mindset. And I think it's fundamentally because he doesn't agree with Brexit. He knows he's not a real believer. And because he's a very lazy man, he can't be bothered to try and work out what his Brexit ideology is. Because his Brexit ideology is just, I wanted to be Prime Minister. That was it. And so he adopted this mindset that was a lazy man's way of dealing with Brexit, which is, so what they don't like the EU. So we must have no cooperation with the EU on anything. Even areas of shared interest. Nothing at all. I can't be bothered to work out what we should and shouldn't cooperate on, so we just won't cooperate on anything. And yet I must constantly talk about how I want closer ties with countries around the world because we're going to be global Britain. It is the mindset of someone coked out of their head, quite frankly. And we're losing access to DNA databases that have been used to arrest rather serious offenders in the past. Losing access to extradition mechanisms, vehicle registration data, information on criminal records, all of this. You know, we're going to be completely blind when it comes to people entering the UK from outside. And, you know, it's all going to be worth it, though, apparently. Everything is a price worth paying for Brexit. You know, it's apparently now fine that people will lose their jobs. That's okay now. We always understood we were going to lose our jobs. Don't matter if I lose my job, it's worth it for Brexit. Oh, yeah, the country's going to be poorer. Yeah, I'm going to be poorer. Yeah, that's fine. It's worth it for Brexit. Oh, we're going to be less safe. We're going to have criminals running around who won't actually know they're criminals. Yeah, that's fine because it's worth it for Brexit. It's almost like there is no bullet hole in our foot big enough to make them question if it really was the right decision in the first place. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.